It's time for Twit. This week in tech, we've got a great panel. Seth Weintraub from Electrek, Paris Martineau from Wired, our friend Ian Thompson from The Register. Equifax finally gets its just desserts. TikTok takes over, and Amazon sells like crazy. It's all coming up next on Twit.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Twit, This Week in Tech, episode 728, recorded Sunday, July 21st, 2019. Facebook fa schifo. This Week in Tech is brought to you by Capterra. Find the right tools to make an informed software decision for your business. Visit Capterra's free website at capterra.com/twit. And by ExpressVPN. Protect your online privacy with one click. It's that easy. For 3 extra months free with a 1-year package, go to expressvpn.com/twit. And by Rocket Mortgage from Quicken Loans. They make the home buying process work for you. Quicken Loans' award-winning client service and support will help you every step of the way. So get started online today at rocketmortgage.com/twit2. And by DoorDash. DoorDash connects you to your favorite restaurants in your city. Get $5 off your first order of $15 or more when you download the DoorDash app and enter the promo code TWIT. It's time for Twit, This Week in Tech, the show where we cover the week's tech news. Paris Martineau is here from Wired. Always a pleasure in the very hot confines of the Wired offices. Manhattan, it looks like it's actually steaming.
I was about to say, it's steamy in here, and that's all right. We're all going to hopefully get steamed over some tech news, too, so it'll go back and forth.
You can barely see across the island there. I'm looking out your window. It's just like steam.
Oh, yeah. No, I have the blinds down, which I guess I found out are kind of see-through now. But it's also steamy out there.
Yes, it really is. Welcome. It's good to have you, Paris. Also here from 9 to 5 Mac, 9 to 5 Google, and Electrek. It's the publisher and one of our favorite people, Seth Weintraub. Hi, Seth.
How's it going, Leo?
Are you burning up?
It is actually hot. I'm not Manhattan hot, but we're, an hour north.
Not Manhattan hot.
Yeah.
He's up the river, though, so that's good.
Yeah.
Great to have you. Also from theregister.co.uk, our favorite Ian Thompson. He's one and only Ian Thompson.
I hope so.
There are no others except
information
no
theft. Identity theft is going to be a lot easier if so.
Yeah, no kidding. Actually, speaking of identity theft, I was very thrilled to hear that it looks like there'll be a $700 million fine for Equifax in the works. This is a settlement of, I don't know how many states attorneys general are suing, probably all 50. The federal government, the Department of Justice, the Federal Trade Commission, and they made a package deal, looks like $700 million, and a promise it'll never happen again.
Pinky swear promise, right. I don't know. I mean, it sounds like a lot of money, but when you look at what their stock price has done since, it's not really going to affect them that much. It's the same sort of thing with Facebook slap on the wrist.
$5 billion for Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, why not charge these people?
$700 million is not that much.
No, I mean, why not do what GDPR does and charge these people on a percentage of their revenues, not their profits?
Wouldn't that be a great idea?
That way you can get all this tech accounting out of the way, and companies might actually take it seriously.
I'm just glad there was some punishment. It felt like they had kind of gotten off scot-free. In fact, all the evidence was they'd made money on the breach, selling,
well,
services
a couple of
to
execs
monitor
are
your
now
credit.
facing prison time for trying to make money on the breach in a different way by selling their shares early.
Right. Yeah.
But I think the senior execs are going to get away with that one because the proof just isn't there. But yeah, charge people on revenue, not just these arbitrary numbers.
Part of the problem also was that Equifax didn't tell anybody for 3 months. And that's one thing GDPR fixes, 72 hours notice.
But given the amount of time they had, it was an awfully amateurish attempt.
Yeah.
Their website didn't work. They got domain hijacked. It was just, you had 3 months to prepare.
Several executives, as soon as they heard about the breach, said, don't tell anyone, and then sold their stock. So that wasn't cool. That wasn't cool. That wasn't nice.
Yeah, now to this day, if you sign up to try and, freeze your credit or do something else, you'll just be bombarded with spam emails asking you to sign up for super dark web safety search.
Right.
Or whatever that means.
You remember what happened. So Paris, if you find out that your email is on the dark web, what are you going to do about it?
I mean, I think that's a loaded question because when people say the dark web, they're like, oh, wow, some skeevy, sketchy website where bad things will happen. But the dark web is a lot of things. It's just the non-indexed web. And, if your email is on there, maybe it's on some sort of list that someone compiled. Maybe it's on a list that's bad. Maybe it's on a list that's neutral. Maybe it's on a list that's good. It's not like you're going to be able to go. Yeah, it's meaningless.
Nothing you can do about it. I guess if you knew that a password was out there, you could change your password. But if you only use one password on every site, you're kind of
you're screwed.
You're screwed either way.
You're dead.
But the most visited site on tour is Facebook.
Right.
It's not a
Facebook runs its own Tor node.
Oh yeah. So it's not all wretched hive of scum and villainy. There's a lot of legit stuff on there as well.
Although, how useful is Tor now that we've learned that in fact the Russians were actively breaking Tor for the last 2 or 3 years? This was actually a great story. Hackers got into a contractor for the FSB, the Russian intelligence operation, and they exfiltrated terabytes of data, 7.5 terabytes. They defaced the company's website with a yoba face. That's the emoji that stands for trolling in, I guess, Russians. We use this here too, right, Paris? You see this around.
Not as often, but I got to say it fits.
Yeah, it does.
It's the language in the U.S. as well.
They gained access to the company, by the way, which is called SciTech, was a contractor, not FSB, but a contractor. They got access to their entire network, including their Jira instance, so they could see what people were working on. They posted screenshots of the servers on Twitter, posted the data they'd stolen with Digital Revolution, another hacking group, and after some investigation of the exfiltrated data, we learned some interesting things. There was a project called Nautilus S for de-anonymizing Tor traffic. And the way you do that is you create rogue Tor servers. And if you create enough of them, it becomes part of the network and you're able to see what people are doing with Tor. BBC Russia pointed out that the work on Nautilus S had started 7 years ago in 2012. 2 years later, in 2014, academics from Karlstad University in Sweden.
So the FBI is accused of trying something similar as well about 4 years ago. So de-anonymizing nodes is bad, certainly.
It's probably a good thing to understand that Tor only works as long as you
have a
trust
certain percentage of
And the exit node is always an issue, right? If the exit node or the entrance node is compromised. Researchers identified 25 malicious Tor servers, 18 of which were in Russia. In fact, running that same version of Tor that was in these leaked files. There was Nautilus, a project for collecting data about social media users.
Including MySpace, bless.
Aw, well, it was an old project.
Yeah.
Facebook and LinkedIn. Mentor, a project to monitor and search email communications on servers of Russian companies. There was a pretty.
The Tax 3 one was nasty.
Project for the creation of a closed intranet intended for Russian state figures, judges, and local administration officials. In other words, we want our own internet that we will be safe on. They also, though, were working with Project Hope to investigate the topology of the Russian internet and how it connects to other countries' networks. And that's kind of interesting because earlier this year, you may remember, Russia ran tests to disconnect from the rest of the world. And so it's thought that this Project Hope might have been part of that, trying to figure out if we wished to sever ties.
Yeah.
Where would we cut the cable? What would we do? SciTech, the company hacked, has taken down its website and refused media inquiries since the hack.
Although, it does seem like the shadow brokers moment for the Russians on this one. Although I have seen some talk online of, this is in fact a false flag operation by the NSA, which has got this information and is now putting it out to hacking groups.
You start down that rabbit hole, you'll never end up anywhere
once you
else.
start into that, yeah.
You want to see, kids, what I'd look like in about
no,
5
you haven't
years?
done this, have you, Leo?
This is FaceApp. No! So, what are you laughing at?
5 years.
5 years from now, maybe
you need to put on some.
I was going to say a bit longer than that.
Yeah, get some sunblock. Wear a hat when you're using your e-bike.
And I'm sure, Paris, because you monitor this stuff, you've seen FaceApp faces all over Instagram and various social networks, right? All the kids are doing.
Oh yeah, they've been everywhere. Everybody is posting different filters and faces from FaceApp, and consequently, almost everybody is now talking about some sort of misinformation regarding who owns FaceApp or what it does. My younger sister, even, who is just like an 18-year-old college student, that I always ask her, if you find anything interesting you think might be an interesting tech influencer story, because she's involved in that world, let me know. The one and only thing she's ever messaged me is, I heard that FaceApp is owned by the Russians and owns all of your data. And I'm like,
maybe that has
it's
to
owned
do
by a company in St. Petersburg, and like every app, if you give it access to all of your data, it owns all of that.
It owns all your data.
Sure.
Apparently, Senator Chuck Schumer, the Senate Minority Leader, had never heard of such a thing. I guess Chuck doesn't know about Facebook, Instagram, Twitter,
WhatsApp, any other app online.
So, a couple of points. First of all, yes, it's a company based in St. Petersburg, but the guy who started it actually was working at Microsoft when he thought of FaceApp in Seattle. You've heard of Washington State? He said, well, wait a minute. We don't send the photos to Russia. We do upload them to the server.
No, you do
but
them
the
locally
server's on Amazon Web Services and Google Code, which, as any sensible app, that makes sense. They did, in the license agreement, say we own your picture forever, for all time, in any media hereafter, and we can share it with anybody, we can give it to anybody. But that's just lazy lawyer boilerplate. That's what, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, if you look in the terms of service for basically any app you download that is you're going to be uploading content to or from, it's going to say the same thing.
Durval, these kids signed a waiver to get into our studio that gives us the right to use their image forever in perpetuity on all media now known or ever invented in this time of the universe.
If you could just leave your passport number.
You all signed that, right?
No.
Okay, good, because we're showing your face right now. So, on the one hand, obviously, this is kind of a crazy response from Senator Schumer, and he actually said we got to investigate.
Oh, the amount of fear-mongering on this has just been painful.
But on the other hand, I like it, because people are finally sitting up and paying attention to privacy, right?
Well, in cases like this, yes, but this is kind of, I mean, they're not worried about Google or Facebook or anything else. It's just like the Russians are coming. I think we can get concerned about privacy and private information, but it doesn't seem like they're doing that much wrong compared to any other social media firm. I mean, Paris, you're the expert on this, but
yeah, I mean, it seems kind of, frankly, a xenophobic response. We've had this sort of outcry when it's related to FaceApp because there is Russian involvement, and similarly, there was a similar outcry in regards to TikTok because it has, I guess, somewhat similar policies, and it's
a Chinese company. Yeah.
Bloomberg, I believe, wrote a whole article being like, "Oh, what's up with TikTok? This scary Chinese app that's building something for your kids and going to take your data." It's like, listen, I mean, all apps are taking your data in some way or another, probably, and especially many of the apps that are targeted at children. I mean, it's good to be aware of these privacy violations, but not solely just for a xenophobic or like ethnic-based fear.
We should also point out FaceApp's been around for 2 years. It's just now it's a second viral 15 minutes. My favorite.
What do they call that? The Streisand effect?
Yeah. Well, now it's going to even be more viral.
Oh,
yeah.
Like it's huge now. Everybody's sending me stuff. It's been around for 2 years.
Right, 2 years. My favorite warning is from the Democratic National Committee, who warned 2020 campaigns not to use FaceApp. Yeah, like the Russians don't know what your candidate looks like. I think they know.
I'm sorry, election security is a joke, and this is what they're
Nobody knows what
focusing on?
Hickenlooper looks like, but everybody else, I think they know. So, Sure, but the reason I don't mind this is because it does raise awareness. You can't, your face, your fingerprint, your iris, your DNA, these are all biometric identifiers that aren't readily changed. You can even change your social, but you can't really change, how you look or how your fingerprint works, how your DNA is.
I'm pretty sure the Kardashians would have.
The Kardashians may have had their DNA altered, but that's unknown. It's sensible to me that people should at least start thinking about this. So I don't kind of mind the idea. It's these warnings go out fairly regularly. Remember when Instagram, everybody was freaked out over Instagram saying, "Oh, we own your photos," and all the professional photographers said, "Oh, never put your photos on Instagram." And Instagram changed it because it's default lawyerese. It's like, well, cover your ass. We'll just take everything until somebody says something. I don't know if FaceApp is going to sell pictures of my 88-year-old self.
It's not just in this sector. I mean, I had a friend of mine on a rival publication, and they tried to get him to sign new contracts saying, "Yeah, we own all your content produced inside or outside the office."
Yeah.
It's like, no, you don't. And they sent it back with crossed out. It's like, oh yeah, hang on, that's a bit strong,
So, but what is okay? So, is there any legitimacy to concern at all?
I guess, yeah. I mean,
staff writer
it's never
Wired.
bad to be concerned over these sort of things. Like you said, it's a valid concern and something that people should be concerned about in all aspects of their lives and a variety of different apps. But I don't know. It just seems kind of like a flash in the pan response for reasons that are not the primary concern.
If Russia or China is an adversary, and I think it's not too far-fetched to say they might be, is there value to them in having a database of every 16-year-old in the United States? It seems like there might be some value to that. I don't know.
But it's information they could get from pretty much anywhere.
Right.
I mean, you could Google their Instagram account and get the same photos of their face. Probably the FaceApp photos that they uploaded there, I know
a lot of parents, though, who are very cautious about publishing pictures of their young children.
Yeah.
Is that reasonable?
Yeah, good for them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're building a somebody's building databases. All these facial recognition companies are building databases of people. I personally don't want my kids' faces. Like, I post pictures of my kids, but not their faces or not publicly.
How old are your kids, Seth?
8 and 10.
At what age will you let them be on Facebook or Instagram or WhatsApp?
I don't even think they're allowed to be on Facebook or Instagram until 13.
13, yeah. Although,
right.
Okay, wait a minute, though. I got to say, I know a lot of parents who sign their kids up on Facebook and Instagram.
Really?
Are you guys on Facebook? Yeah, of course you are. No.
Yeah.
Oh, look at the Italian students say, no. They're already aware. That's interesting.
Okay. Good
I
job,
imagine
guys.
young people are a little more aware than.
Are you guys not on Facebook because you're aware that it's bad, or just because Facebook is lame, though?
Is it
it's
because
old people?
How do you say lame in Italian? I bet there's a really good word for lame.
Yes.
Schifo. Facebook is schifo. They know that word.
I've heard it described as something my parents were on by the younger generation.
Yeah,
so.
the olds use it. The olds. I don't know. I think it's good to be aware of it. Obviously, FaceApp is no worse than. I mean, if you're already on any other platform, the Russians probably have long ago got your face.
Yeah.
Do they use TikTok in Italy? Yeah? You like TikTok? No, you don't like TikTok? Come on, you can lip sync, you can sing along. All right.
TikTok is great.
Vine.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Paris is a TikToker.
Wow.
Love TikTok. Don't make any TikTok videos, just a lurk. It's great.
So,
Big fan.
Paris, you can explain to me. This is exactly like Vine, right?
Exactly.
Kind of, but it's Vine, but more options, more creativity, more flexibility. While Vine was the restriction that kind of made the app and the content interesting was the short length of the videos. TikTok can be a wide variety of length, wide variety of like music. They have a lot of really great like built-in effects.
Because they acquired Musical.ly, a lot of it is now lip syncing, right?
Yeah, but I mean, A lot of it isn't lip syncing, though. The interesting thing is that TikTok, like memes or moments or things like that, you can search by sound. So if you find like a really good meme genre that you like and think is funny, you click the sound on that, and then you show everybody else doing kind of spins on or reacting to that meme.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
I mean, then there is normal stuff like this, but
It
I'm a big
feels
fan
to
of
me
this
like
meme.
the same people who loved Vine are now back to TikTok doing stuff. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Our social media editor here at Wired, Cam, he just created a Instagram account that is called, I think, Big Vine Energy, that is just TikToks that have Vine energy, which I'm very excited to follow.
Twitter's got to be looking at this going, oh, we so screwed up. They bought Vine and killed it.
Terrible mistake.
Why? Did they ever say why they killed Vine? What does that make? How does that make any sense? Vine was making celebrities I'm told at VidCon last week, which was ostensibly created for YouTube and YouTube stars by the Greens. It was all TikTok stars. Like the TikTok celebrities. The TikTok party was the party to be at.
Oh, yeah. The TikTokers are where it's at.
Yeah.
Oh, good
I
grief.
hope this is a flash in the pan. I'm sorry, I'm just too old for this. There is a lot of creativity, though. I mean, look at this guy.
The Washington Post's TikTok account is fantastic, actually.
Oh, so if you're
what?
a brand, you should be
All
on
of the
TikTok.
brand accounts, most of the brand accounts suck, but the Washington Post's TikTok account is wonderful because they just understand exactly how to use TikTok.
Interesting. Interesting. So I should follow the Washington Post.
I'm feeling older than
Yeah,
that.
actually, they've got some good ones.
What's the maximum length of a TikTok video?
I don't know, actually. It's a great question.
So Vine was what, 8 seconds? 6 or 8 seconds?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
I think
short.
it was like 6,
6 maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
maximum length.
Are you Googling maximum length of Vine?
I think it can be 60
It was
seconds.
6 seconds, wasn't it? Vine?
It was pretty short.
Yeah.
TikTok is not that short. Although I noticed that most of them are roughly the same. Their Vine length. Maybe that's just a natural length.
That's true.
15 seconds, somebody's saying. Must be TikTok.
Yeah, maybe Warhol was out by minutes and seconds. That's-
All right, let's take a break. Come back. There's lots more to talk about. And as long as we're xenophobic, we'll talk about Google banning a Chinese app from the Play Store. We'll talk about the president saying he's going to take a look at Google for ties with China. It's the xenophobia edition of This Week in Tech.
particularly ironic considering the audience.
Well, I don't know. Is Italy a good country? Yeah. That's where we get pasta, pizza.
Great students to come watch the
Great
show.
students who come
Great.
and watch the show. We
Yeah.
have
Good quality ice cream.
a group of coding, CODENG, coding and engineering students from Varese, Italia. Is that right? In studio with us, and they're a very nice bunch. But where's the pizza? There's no pizza. Our show today brought to you by Capterra. There is software for every line of business on Capterra, and I think this is great because so many businesses, and I've worked for some of them, are using old, out-of-date software. Why else would anybody be running Vista or Internet Explorer 8? Because you have to, right? Because the software that the boss's nephew Joey wrote when he was in college still runs the entire business. Joey's long gone. The good news is there's better software out there, state-of-the-art business software. And if you need it, Capterra can find it. Over 700 categories of software. CMS, email marketing, IT service, SEO, workflow management. We actually replaced Twit ads with a little CRM program you might have heard of called Salesforce. Yeah, works pretty well. I don't know why we suffered for so long. 700 categories, tens of thousands of apps in every category. Line of business software like yoga studio management, big software like video conferencing software, and everything in between. And here's the best part. You can search for the category, drill it down. You can filter it by product rating, by how many users it supports, how it's deployed on premises or in the cloud, the features you need. Can you make appointments? Can you do billing with it, that kind of thing? Then you can compare them side by side, up to 4 at a time. They'll even show you lists of related categories. But the best part about Capterra is the reviews. They're getting close now to 1 million actual users' reviews, 1,000 new reviews every single day. In fact, if you get software that Capterra recommended, please leave a review yourself, because that makes it so much more useful. Pay it forward. All of this is free. Free. You don't even have to leave a review, although it'd be nice if you want to leave a review. Capterra, CAPTERRA.com/twit. No matter what kind of software your business needs, Capterra makes it easy to discover the right solution fast. Check out Capterra and do it for free. CAPTERRA is software selection simplified. But if you would, go to capterra.com/twit. That way they'll know you saw it here. You'll support us, and we thank Capterra for supporting us. Capterra.com/twit. I got to balance the heavy stories with the light stories. Should we talk about World Emoji Day and the new emojis? It's a crowd pleaser. Everybody loves emojis. You don't love emojis? That's a sign you're old, Ian.
I preferred. What's wrong with just, colon dash outer bracket?
I bet Paris likes emojis.
Not the biggest emoji fan. They're fine. They do what they need to do. Don't really use them.
How do you say emoji in Italian? Emoji.
Right, okay.
You got to use your hand, though. Emoji. Emojis, they added falafel, but I love this article in The Verge from John Porter. Why does Apple hate falafel? On the left, Apple's falafel. On the right, Google's falafel. Actually, they both look disgusting.
I was going to say, that's not doing falafel justice.
No.
Also, where's the hummus?
Hummus
This reminds me of the whole burger controversy.
I know.
Where they messed up the organization of the burger.
Which butter would you prefer? Apple's or Google's? Apple's on the left. Google's doing cartoony. Yeah, apples look real. That looks like
apples
you could
looks more realistic.
You could rub that on yourself. That's butter is creamy and delicious.
Okay.
Gorillas here and skunks. Left is Apple, right is Google.
I've got to say, Apple's emojis just look much more developed.
Lately, Apple has made their emojis more 3D and more photorealistic. That's kind of the thing they've changed to. Google's gone more...
Skeuomorphic, maybe?
Skeuomorphic, yeah. That's a skeuomorphic skunk. Maybe. I could practically smell it. Google's gone more cartoony. And actually, I have to say, the Google skunk is a little Pepe Le Pew.
Yep.
It's a little...
It's prancing.
It's prancing.
Yeah.
It's prancing. The most important thing in the emojis, the thing we probably should mention, is
more
that
inclusive.
It's much more inclusive. People with disabilities are represented. There's a guy with a stick. There's a guide dog. There's a prosthetic limb. And there's a wheelchair. And, of course, you can have a variety of people in wheelchairs. As I remember, I want to make sure I give credit. And actually, I should ask Jeremy Burge, because he runs Emojipedia, and we see him all the time.
Oh, I think I was on a show with him. Is this the guy who's got Chief Emoji Officer on his business cards?
Yeah. And he's on the Unicode Consortium, Emoji Consortium.
Yeah, that's right. No, we read
he's
on
the committee.
Yeah.
And we should point out the companies have a big presence on the committee, but anybody can submit for emoji. I want to give credit to Apple, because I think it was Apple that went for the inclusive people with disabilities emojis. And the year before, Google was the one pushing for a variety of shades of skin color. Mm-hmm. And you've probably noticed that in your emojis. You can choose, and in the hand emojis and the face emojis, you can choose other skin colors.
Google also the first ones to do same-sex couples? I'm not entirely sure on that.
I think that probably was Google as well. So the new emojis will be appearing in the next version of your operating system, iOS 13 for Apple, Android. Where are we? We're at Q? I think we're at Q for the Android folks. But I bet, Seth, on 9 to 5 sites, emojis articles rank very high.
It's funny you mention that, because they do.
Yeah.
It's kind of a joke in our Slack room, like, oh, good, there's an emoji story today. We're going to have a big day.
It's World Emoji Day. They are traffic drivers. What do you think I just did it for? high in the show.
There you go.
You see? I don't have any
when I was
way
at
of
Select
measuring.
All, emoji stories, top of the chart.
Top of the charts. As long as we're talking about Apple, there's a new MacBook Air released, ironically, with a slower hard drive, according to iMore. But it was less expensive. It was $100 less expensive.
Yeah, I know.
And it's not a slow hard drive. Let's be clear. It's still an SSD. Apple actually uses raw memory and uses the T2 chip to control it. And it is still, instead of 2 gigabytes, not bad, it's bytes per second read, but that was last year's MacBook Air. It's 1.3 gigabytes per second. Now, yeah, that sounds like a lot. But 1.3 gigabytes a second is still plenty of data.
Yeah.
You're not reading more than that.
And if you are, you're just storing it on the cloud anyway. So
yeah, it's all. That's right.
I'm still frustrated they got rid of all the MacBook Pros that don't have the touch bar thing.
I agree with you. I think
don't
what a
want,
mistake.
I'm upset because I was just planning on buying a new MacBook Pro. I looked at it, I think on a Sunday. I was like, I'll order it on Monday because we work above the Apple store here. And I was like, I'll go in and pick it up at work. That day, all of them are gone from the store.
Oh, they don't even sell it? You couldn't even get it?
Now I have to get one with the touch bar if I want a new MacBook Pro, and it's awful. I don't want that.
It is a lot faster, the new MacBook Pro.
I know.
But I hate the touch bar. It gets in my way. I hit it all the time.
our readers rant about it. I haven't come across a single person that goes, yeah, that's a good idea.
Who thinks that's a good idea besides Apple? And they're still using it.
Also, wait, is the touch bar where the power button is? Is that part of the display, or is it still
Yeah.
physical?
So
That seems problematic. What if the computer freezes? And
well, but
the
it's
touch bar
not.
won't?
It's a physical button. It moves. It goes in, and it's your fingerprint reader too. So the one thing it gives you, which is good, and it's on the MacBook Airs. The Air is still the right solution. No touch bar, but it does have the fingerprint reader, and that's the on-off switch and fingerprint reader. And I'm pretty sure on the touch bar, I used to have one. I got rid of it. That button is a physical button. So you're right. That would be a.
It might be haptic actually.
Oh no!
You know how they do those weird things?
Yeah, where you think it's physical.
Because the reason that I think that it is because when my MacBook Pro is totally dead, and I push the power button, there's no feedback like I pushed a button until I power it up.
Right.
With a
So annoying.
so I think it's haptic.
That's
know.
frustrating because my one thing is I don't know, run way too many tabs or programs on my computer, and once in a while it would just freeze, and I gotta shut it off forcefully.
Paris,
And
I have
that won't
some
work.
very good news for you. If you go to the certified refurbished Apple store,
Ooh, actually, might be doing that right after this.
do that now. I'll give you some time.
Yeah.
You could still buy the MacBook Pro. We called it the Escape.
It's just the 2015 one.
No,
No?
it's last year's.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
But
great!
it doesn't have a
that's the
touch
one
bar.
I'm on right now.
Yeah, doesn't
my
have a
work
touch
computer.
bar.
I just want the exact same thing at home.
We call it the MacBook Escape because it has an escape key, and you escape from the touch bar. So yeah, they have actually this says 2017, but I think they have quite a big selection.
Find an 18 there.
Yeah, there's quite a big selection of MacBook Pros on there. And when you get Apple refurbed, usually that means it was just never used. It was somebody bought it, and they can't sell it as new because the box was opened. I think originally released 2017 is what all of them will say, but it's effectively new and cheap.
Yeah,
Well,
so
what,
much
by
cheaper.
Apple standards.
Huh?
By Apple standards.
By Apple standards, nothing. Yeah, cheap and Apple don't go together. I think that's all the Apple news I have. We did the emoji. Well, there's one more story. I don't know if this matters to anybody. It kind of matters to me because I'm a podcaster. Apple has, according to a guy named Mark Gurman, I think that's his name, Mark Gurman. I'm teasing Seth because how old was Mark when you discovered him? 17?
I think he's 8.
He was really young. It was at 9 to 5.
I found him on Facebook.
He was awesome. He's gone now to Bloomberg, but I presume taking his sources with him. According to Gurman and Lucas Shaw on Bloomberg, Apple plans to bankroll original podcasts to fend off rivals. What, like Twit? What rivals are you talking
did you get
about?
a call?
Are they trying to become the Netflix of podcasts or something? Or
According to Gurman, well, first of all, this is all part of the revival, the renaissance of podcasting. In fact, the New York Times today had an article that said podcasting has. What was the term they used? Have we hit peak podcast?
Yeah.
And they featured this woman who did a podcast for like 6 weeks and
How
gave
did
up.
they find her? I want to know. How do you find someone who has a podcast that didn't take off?
Well, because I don't know. It must have
Just sat in a conference room with her iPhone and talked to her friend, and then was shocked when it wasn't great.
Yeah. It was called the Advice Podcast. But really, this entire article in the New York Times, Have We Hit Peak Podcast, is basically an advertisement for this woman because she's starting a new podcast.
Oh, good grief. It's interesting. I mean, we started doing podcasts at my previous job in 2009, and nobody listened to them. Absolutely nobody. Because you just couldn't get that traction. Now, you've been doing this longer than pretty much anyone. 2005.
Yeah. Actually, my first podcast was 2004, September 2004.
Right.
Which was right when it began. I mean, people had done audio on I'd done audio on the internet before that, but the whole idea of making an RSS feed with a show in it that people could subscribe to and then automatically download, that started when Dave Weiner, Adam Curry convinced Dave Weiner to add binary enclosures to RSS, saying, that enclosure could be a audio file, and then people could subscribe to it. Dave did it, and if the fall of 2004, a number of people, including Dave and Adam, and myself started doing podcasts. So I'm glad to see that it's back. Podcast listenership, according to Bloomberg, has more than doubled in the last, 5 years. And apparently they're worried about Spotify. Because remember, Spotify bought Gimlet for $230 million. And it's pretty clear Spotify's plan is to have exclusive podcasts produced by Gimlet, which will be available on both the paid and free tier. And so they'll make money in advertising on the free tier, and they'll make money from people paying for it to hear these podcasts. Maybe they'll even be podcasts you have to pay for. This is a model to me. This is a little inside baseball, so I'll move on. But this is a model to me that I see a lot. I think Gimlet did this, Serial and all that stuff. It's the TV model. I think of podcasts as radio shows. We're sitting around, we're doing a radio show.
Yeah,
but some podcast producers think of it as a TV series, an audio TV series. So it's going to have 13 episodes. It's going to have seasons. And I think this is exactly when Apple says we're going to bankroll original podcasts. That sounds to me like the same model that they're using for their Apple TV Plus shows. They're going to use for podcasts. It won't be as expensive. Instead of $15 million an episode, it'll be maybe $15 an episode. But they'll pay people to do exclusive podcasts. It'll only be available on Apple's whatever platform.
I just wish they would spend some of this money making the Apple Podcast app not terrible, because it is bad. As a person I listen to so many podcasts every single day. It's honestly absurd. But I used to only exclusively use the Apple Podcast app because I was like, Spotify, a new player in this. I don't want to, contribute to that. But the Apple Podcast app is terrible. There's just it looks like it was designed by someone who isn't listening to podcasts at any sort of mass. And Spotify is just already leagues ahead. And I'm sure all of the, bespoke podcast listening apps are even leagues ahead of that.
Well, that's what so I don't know. And I do know our stats. iTunes still is number one, but it used to be 80 or 90% of our downloads. It's less than 40% now. Pocket Cast, which is a bespoke, as you call it, a podcast app, and a very good one, owned by Public Radio now, by the way, is number two. And then quite a few. There's Overcast, which is excellent. That's Marco Arment's audio-only podcast program. There are quite a few good podcast programs. I think a lot of podcast listeners honestly listen on their voice assistant. They say, Echo, listen to This Week in Tech, or Echo, listen to Joe Rogan or whatever, and that's one way people listen to.
Well, I think hardware's had a massive role in this, because when podcasts first came out,
mobile changed everything. Yeah,
it was they were a pain to download and listen to, and now you can just stack it straight on your phone.
Well, you got to wonder why we still call them podcasts. There barely is an iPod anymore, right? The iPod name will live on in podcasts.
Didn't they just release a new iPod?
They have one last iPod, the iPod Touch.
But the iPod to ruin them all, rule them all.
Yeah, it's not. Nobody listens to a podcast on their iPod. So
I'm sure there's some purists out there, but yes.
As a podcast listener, Paris, are you attracted by the notion of exclusive podcasts you can only get on a platform like Spotify or Apple's podcast?
No, honestly, I mean, whenever I hear exclusive content, whether it be for like Spotify or Apple or something else, it kind of turns me off to it because I'm like, I don't want to be manipulated into using your service just to listen to this. It's the same way that this makes absolutely no sense because I know I'm acting against my best interest. But when podcasts I like do that thing where it's, Thursday, the day that an episode comes out, but instead of an episode of the podcast, I get an episode of some other podcast in the network that they think will really like. I'm like, I'm not going to listen to this. I'm not going to be fed content just so that I can be moved in to be an audience member of some other show, even though I probably would like it. I'm just
I will never do that to you, Paris, I promise.
Thank you.
Our feeds are sacred.
They're pure.
They're pure. They're sacred. I think maybe Apple's thinking, remember that satellite radio was about dead until Howard Stern went there. And in order to get Howard Stern, you had to subscribe to satellite radio. Maybe they're thinking that. Maybe they're thinking, if we get somebody, I don't know who it is, Taylor Swift, Kim Kardashian, I don't know who it is, what if they got Joe Rogan?
That would be interesting.
And Joe said, you can't listen to my podcast unless you listen to it on Apple's platform.
I don't think he'd do that.
No, I mean, I think these things work. Now that I'm thinking about it, what is it? Some Gimlet podcast, Crime Town.
Crime Town.
The second, fantastic podcast.
Yes.
Love it.
Yes.
I listened to the full first season, didn't realize the second season was out. They were releasing episodes one by one on Apple Podcasts, and then I saw that all of them were available on Spotify. So I used it, and now I honestly use Spotify predominantly because it's so much better.
So that did work.
They did get me in the end. So it's a good strategy.
So according to, I don't know, industry executives, nobody asked me. According to industry executives, Spotify is the clear number 2 player in podcasting. Not for us. I don't even know if Spotify shows up in our list. The company, according to this Bloomberg piece, sees between 10 and 20% of listeners and accounts for half the audience on some shows. Other companies, iHeartMedia, which, disclaimer, I work for, my radio show's on there, Premier syndicated. Stitcher, Pandora, and Luminary have also devoted more resources. So maybe there is this that actually scares me, this rush by these big companies to take these over. I would hate to see exclusives because I think one of the best things about podcasts is the democratic nature of it, and that you can listen however you want, wherever you want, whenever you want. That's always been kind of a mantra for me is, if you had to have Stitcher to hear a certain show, I don't think that's good. I think that's taking this great new medium and stuffing it into the old way of doing things. It's on NBC. That's the only place you can listen to that podcast.
Yeah.
I hope that doesn't.
These walled gardens are just really. I understand why it's done. It's just really.
It's good for business.
It's really irritating.
Yeah, it's good for business. All right.
But yeah,
that really was all for me. So I apologize. The president says. By the way, anytime you start a sentence with the president says, I think you can pretty much ignore anything following that. Only because, and this is not to diss him, but he says a lot of things, very few of which ever kind of happen. But he's saying we should take a look at Google for its ties with China, which is kind of ironic because Google's one of the few big American companies that stopped doing business with China because they didn't like their repressive regime. In fact, Google there was rumored a secret skunkworks to do a search engine for China. They've officially ended that now, as if they said it a long time ago. They ended it, but now it's official.
They have kind of left the door open to take it up again at some future point. But yeah, at least they stopped first time.
Trump actually in this, and by the way, he said it in a tweet. I probably should make that clear as well. Trump actually credits tech investor Peter Thiel. He says, billionaire tech investor Peter Thiel believes Google should be investigated for treason. He loves that T word, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He accuses Google of working with the Chinese government at Fox and Friends. Oh, well, now we know what he was watching. A great and brilliant guy who knows his subject better than anyone. The Trump administration will take a look. This is actually in many ways
cursed Venn diagram of content.
I know. This is a classic Trump tweet. He refers to himself in the third person. He calls somebody brilliant. He uses the T word, treason.
And it's about Peter Thiel.
Yeah.
You know, who, let's face it, has some fairly out
And Fox
there
and
ideas.
Friends. And Fox and Friends. Riva Shuto, a Google spokeswoman, said, as we've said before, we do not work with the Chinese military. Well, that's interesting.
Well, hang on. I mean, sorry. Cisco sold China the hardware to build the initial Great Firewall of China.
Yeah.
You know, American companies have been
We do
selling
billions of dollars in business with the Chinese government.
And, you know, a lot of tech firms are faced in the enviable position. If they do take things up with the Chinese authorities, then China can just turn around to them and goes, you know those manufacturing plants you had? What do you mean, the ones we've got? No, the ones you had. And, you know, the Chinese government has an awful lot of power in this situation. And just sending out the odd tweet or so, I'm unconvinced that the president's actually going to do anything on this one.
Google's vice president for public policy was on Capitol Hill this week testifying before the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee, Karen Bhatia. She said that Google had exited China in 2010 because the censorship regime was not compatible with our values. I'm sorry, he, not she. He denied there were any plans to reintroduce Google's search engine in China. He also denied that Google had been, quote, infiltrated by Chinese intelligence operatives. That's what Peter Thiel claimed. And he said that also during an interview with Fox News on Monday. We see no evidence of that.
Yeah, well, I got an absolutely bonkers press release through this week saying apparently someone was trying to sue Google because they didn't have enough conservatives on their board. And it was just like, right, now they've got Chinese spies and conservatives and no one knows what the hell's going on.
Thiel said Google is working with the Chinese government, Chinese communist government, and not with the U.S. military. Remember, that was, of course, because engineers at Google went on strike when Google was working on a Pentagon contract for AI, using AI.
That was Project Maven, wasn't it?
Maven, yeah.
And a lot of those engineers that struck have now moved on to other things. But
honestly, there's this. It comes from the left. It comes from the right. There's this drumbeat that Silicon Valley has. We've got to do something about Silicon Valley for a variety of reasons. The social media summit last week was that the Silicon Valley's too left wing, and we got to do something. Because they're censoring us, and then the left says they're too powerful and they're spying on us. We've got to do something. So there's a drumbeat coming from both sides, which means maybe something will happen. It doesn't sound like anything good.
Yeah, it's just hard to say because, I mean, there's been so many hearings in this vein that, I mean, you watch them, which I have to do for my job, and there are a lot of things being said, but it's mostly just for, it seems, the senators to repeat talking points so that they can tell their fans and their base, oh, I repeated these talking points, and everybody's shouting in a room. Nothing is actually being said or heard, and nothing comes of it.
So you think it's all rhetorical? It's all grandstanding?
I mean, it doesn't seem to have had none of these individual hearings have had any direct impact yet from a congressional perspective, which I think is kind of telling in and of itself. I mean, how many times are we just going to lock all these people in a room with a bunch of tech reporters and pretend like something's going to happen?
Seth, what do you think is going on? Do you think that we are close to getting some sort of regulation of big tech?
I think that would take quite a bit of work on behalf of Washington, and I don't know if they have the kind of...
They have bigger fish to fry.
Yeah, they just don't have they have too much ADD to kind of deal with that. Yeah. I mean, I will say about this thing. So Peter Thiel said one thing, and of course he's a board member of Facebook, and he's kind of throwing the dogs over to Google. Like, hey, look, Google's doing bad stuff. Never mind that big $5 billion thing that we just got, and our stock went up $6 billion because of it. So he's throwing them off. Fox and Friends quoted him incorrectly and made all these things about treason and all this other stuff. So Trump, of course, quotes Fox and Friends, which totally
misquoting Peter
took
Thiel.
off on that.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, this is typical. This is typical of what happens now, and this is, our president. My feeling is that the Trump administration wants to send Google kind of a message that, hey, we have our crosshairs on you. Don't go liberal on us, or don't, I feel like there was a lot of, in conservative media, there was a lot of talk at the last election about how there was, like in Breitbart or whatever, that high-ranking Googlers were very upset about the victory of Donald Trump. And I think the Trump administration wants to send them a message that, hey, we're watching you.
Yeah. We're not going to do anything, but we are watching.
Right.
There's also the issue that I feel like this is something, there's a lot of roiling around on the surface, but let's not forget, under the surface, there's a lot of tension between law enforcement and these companies on two fronts. One, at least publicly, companies don't seem to be as cooperative with law enforcement as law enforcement would like. There's even been rumors that, they'll be talking about encryption backdoors and things like that. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, I think actually these companies are highly cooperative with law enforcement in ways, in all sorts of ways, and that a lot of the information that goes to Google, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, even Apple, ends up in the hands of law enforcement anyway. I think law enforcement is reluctant to expose that relationship and doesn't want to rock the apple cart.
Well, I think after covering a fair amount of the sort of the crime conferences on the crime reporting on this, Google, Facebook, et al. Are happy to work with law enforcement as long as they get a proper warrant.
When they get that warrant, boom, here you go.
Then there it is. But it's when you start talking encryption backdoors, or with the San Bernardino case with Apple, where they wanted a custom version of the operating system that could allow them to get around this. It was just, that's too far. And if they break their own encryption to satisfy American law enforcement, they can't sell that encryption around the world anywhere else.
Right.
I mean, no one is going to trust their products if they're not actually sorted out that way. So there's a lot for the tech companies to lose. But yeah, if you turn up with a warrant, doors open.
Yeah. And I feel like law enforcement doesn't really want to jeopardize that either.
No.
Let's just the status quo is good. Google did ban a major Chinese app developer from the Play Store and its ad platforms. That's pretty severe. That's a severe banning. The company was Qtech. Actually, here they are at the New York Stock Exchange, where they are listed, ringing the final bell.
What's done to their stock price?
BuzzFeed News has a story, Craig Silverman, that when BuzzFeed and a security company provided evidence that Qtech's apps were bombarding users with disruptive ads, even after the company told Google, no, we stopped doing that. Google investigated. There were hundreds of Android apps in the Play Store, including the TouchPal keyboard apps. 60 of those apps have now been removed from the Play Store. Qtech is completely banned from any Google ad platform buys. And Google says, a Google spokesperson said, more removals will follow. So that's malicious behavior. Qtech's response was, our apps have been temporarily disabled. We acknowledge that we have the ability to attract new users and generate revenue from Google AdMob, and that may be adversely affected. The actions taken by Google will not affect Qtech's existing users or their ability to use the app. How did it affect their stock price? Did you find...
let's have a quick look.
Yeah. This is the second major Chinese developer to receive a ban by Google this year.
That's
this
not
spring.
good.
It went down a little bit? Plummeted?
Just a tad.
Just a little? All apps from Do Global, a developer with 500 million installs.
So in 1 month.
Yeah. Pretty severe
a faster
drop.
downhill than most Olympic skiing courses. Yeah.
Bye-bye. Yeah. Do Global was BuzzFeed again revealed the company was committing ad fraud and violating other Google policies.
It's a depressingly common refrain, but I mean,
ad fraud
they're getting better at dealing with it, but it's still nowhere near there where it should be at the moment.
You may remember that very famously Fortnite decided to sell itself outside the Play Store to keep Google from its 30% share. Now Tinder joins the revolt against App Store fees. Tinder is bypassing Google Play, asking you to re-up within the app. They launched a new default payment process that skips Google Play, forces users to enter their credit card details straight in the app. Once a user has entered their payment information, the app not only remembers it, but removes the choice to go back to Google Play for future purchases.
So glad I'm not single anymore.
I think both Apple and Google are under a lot of pressure to lower the cut or do something about the 30% of revenue that they take.
I'm sorry, 30% is an absolutely outrageous cut.
Is it?
You know,
I feel like
yeah.
given that you get distribution, you get marketing.
Well, but you also lose complete control. I mean, I've got a bit more respect for Apple on this stuff because they do a decent job of actually checking all the softwares on their stores is relatively malware free. They've had a few slips over the years, but not many. But the Play Store, their automated checking systems suck, and the amount of malware that's still in there is really painfully high for a 30% cut.
Is that what the 30% goes to?
Well, the 30% is supposed to be on maintenance and marketing and the rest of it, but as an end user, you know, I do feel that, you know, if they're charging that much to the developer, then we should be getting some benefit from it.
Right. All right, I'm going to ask you if anybody bought anything on Prime Day in a little bit. Prime Day was big, 175 million items, bigger than Black Friday and Cyber Monday combined. Our show today brought to you by ExpressVPN. Everybody knows a VPN protects your privacy, protects your security when you're an open Wi-Fi hotspot. Actually, I know people use VPNs at home too because, of course, your ISP is also kind of keeping an eye on what you're doing online. And we know ISPs will sell that data in many cases to marketers. A lot of people want to protect themselves online. They also like the idea of emerging in various geographic locations, eliminating geographic restrictions. I'm always asked, what's your recommendation? What's the best VPN? And I will tell you, it's ExpressVPN, our sponsor. ExpressVPN is easy, runs on any platform, Windows, Mac, iOS, Android. Download the app, put it on your device, click to connect, and you're done. ExpressVPN is also fast. They have more servers than anybody all over the world. And they just completed an audit, which I was really pleased to see, that says, yes, ExpressVPN's privacy policy is exactly as stated. They do no logging. They collect no information about you, except for the little they have to charge you. They use a new cutting-edge server technology called Trusted Server that prevents the operating system and apps from ever writing to the hard drive, too. It's like sandboxing. And that is an awesome standard of privacy and security. The audit also confirmed that's exactly how Trusted Server works. And it's very affordable, less than $7 a month. You get a 30-day money-back guarantee, so try it and see how you like it. Stop hackers, stop Big Brother, stop internet companies from grabbing your data. Take back your online privacy. ExpressVPN. You can protect your online activity today and find out how you can get an extra 3 months free with a 1-year package when you go to expressvpn.com/twit. 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 3 extra months free when you buy a 1-year package. Thank you, ExpressVPN, for supporting Twit. Thank you, Paris Martineau, for being here from Wired Magazine, braving a sweltering, hot Wired office where the AC has been turned off and Edward Snowden's photo is dripping off the wall.
Yeah, where is he there?
There he is.
Can you see him?
There he is.
He's melting.
He's melting.
It's a sauna in here. We're all purging.
This is for your health, Paris. You're here for your health.
Yeah, really. It's I should be paying you guys for this.
Seth Weintraub, who's up the river where it's just a little bit cooler. Publisher of 9 to 5 and Electrek. It's always great to have you, Seth. Thank you for joining us today.
Always fun to be here.
And from the register.co.uk news editor, Ian Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
Registered. I just read I love the Register articles. Just read a good one.
The headlines.
Yeah, the headlines are so good.
You should see the headlines that we don't publish. I mean, it was some of the stuff that would get us shot, but still fun. I
have to type the register.co.uk. I typed register.co.uk and it said, it's for sale. It's for sale. Oakland has now, in fact, this is from a Register story, become the 3rd city in the United States to ban face recognition. San Francisco was the first, Somerville, Massachusetts the second. Mm-hmm. Now Oakland. What do you think of that? Is that, I mean, it's interesting. It's these liberal enclaves somewhat that are banning it. Is it a sensible privacy move to say the government? It's not banning face recognition from private companies.
Well, what it's saying is if law enforcement wants to set up a facial recognition system within our city, then they have to apply for permission to do so and explain exactly how it's going to work and how you're going to build privacy into that. That's certainly what they did with San Francisco. That's what they did, I think, in Connecticut. if you try and roll this stuff out too quickly, then they're going to cause problems. As we saw with the Orlando case this week, with Amazon getting kicked off their contract, it is incredibly difficult to make these facial recognition systems work, and because of problems with training them, they predominantly are accurate for white men and inaccurate for women and people of color, because that's just what the data sets were largely about. So I think putting a temporary ban on it is fine, and asking people to justify their decisions. You could end up with fewer costly mistakes like we've seen in Florida. And frankly, I'm not wild about the technology in the first place, but I don't know. What do the rest of you think?
Paris?
I saw something at
Seth, go ahead.
I saw something at CES that really kind of scared me. And it was not only face recognition, but it was like calculating my age and
weight.
I can't even remember what other stuff. Yeah,
like the guy at the carnival.
Right, it was basically a carnival guy. But I don't think it's a big thing until you actually feel it firsthand, like that your data is being collected and you're being recognized, and you come back later and it remembers that you were there before, and that kind of Big Brother situation is something that I think we're all inherently kind of afraid of.
I can't decide if I'm more scared of government doing it or private industry doing it.
Well, government, you've got a chance to stop them. Private industry, that's it.
Delta, has anybody used the Delta face recognition check-in? It's in Atlanta. They're going to add it to Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Salt Lake City. This is actually a truly terrifying image.
Yeah, that's not good.
Delta expands optional, optional face recognition boarding.
I've been seeing reports of people trying to opt out of this, and they don't make it easy.
Yeah, or you don't even know it's optional. And frankly, it's pretty easy.
There's a list of terms and services that's on a billboard like next to it, or a little board that is as tall as like a 6-foot person. Like, how do I have time to read this?
By agreeing to your face scan, you agree, blah, 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 all the boilerplate.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like
at LGA the other week, and they had facial recognition, a private company kind of for TSA. You could, I do TSA.
That's Clear.
Check,
I use Clear.
but Clear. I had never seen that before.
Yeah, they're a sponsor, and I actually use it. But because and by the way, they have my fingerprints and my iris.
Yeah.
But I check the privacy policy, make sure that they do, they handle it responsibly. And actually, in some ways, I prefer that they do it than somebody else. Delta's using CPB and I think DMV records as well, government records. They say we don't get those pictures. We're just using their database. I don't know. I just feel like this is moving very fast. FaceApp is the tip of a very big iceberg, and it's all moving extremely
quickly. Then you see, if you go to China, they're like 10, 15 years ahead of us on this, and the social credit system. And this is where this is going, unless enough people stand up and say, actually, this isn't the kind of future that I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah.
And it's, given their druthers, tech companies and local government will love this. So if you want to actually stop it, it's really a question of stepping up now.
And I can see people, it's so easy at the airport. You don't have to pull out your driver's license. You just walk right through. Oh, yeah, we know you. I mean, it almost feels like friends. They know you. They say, hey, come on in, Neil, and we know you.
Yeah, friends who have a creepy and lot of mouths. Friends who are also stalkers is possibly this.
I think it's almost too late. I feel like it's happened.
You may well be right. But, yeah, I don't know. It does creep me out a fair bit.
Okay, anybody show of hands? Anybody buy anything on Prime Day? Did you see any deals that you just couldn't resist? No. How about this? Did anybody boycott on Prime Day? I didn't. I don't know if this is kind of as a boycott.
I'm not a Prime member, so
I'm a Prime member, but I kind of stayed away from Amazon for those 2 days out of a feeling of support for the warehouse workers who probably hate Prime Day. A number of them walked out.
Yeah, they had wildcat strikes.
Yeah. Didn't slow Amazon down. They sold 175 million items. It was bigger than Black Friday and Cyber Monday combined. So they managed to get around the walkouts. If I don't know how widespread they were.
I did rather like Bernie Sanders' style. He was invited to a Washington Post event, which is owned by Amazon owner Jeff Bezos. And he was asked for his sort of view on what they would do about the tech firms. He goes, "Oh, well, I'm going to bring in an attorney general and break them up, just like Teddy Roosevelt." To stand in your host event and say, "Yeah, I'm going after your boss's biggest company." It's just like,
good for him.
That's actually rather refreshing in a
good for him. Yeah, Jeff will have plenty of money. It's not going to hurt Jeff's bottom line.
No. He gave a really objectionable interview last year. It's like, I honestly, I've learned so much money from Amazon that I'm spending it on getting into space now.
He calls himself a lottery winner.
He's like, the Earth is over. We've got to go somewhere else.
He said it again just the other day.
And I'm sorry, when your workers are having to urinate in bottles because they're so afraid to leave their posts, maybe you might want to, deal with some issues on Earth as well as in space. I'm not saying just one or the other, but, it's...
multitask.
Yeah.
Jeff wants to go to the moon first. It's Elon that wants to go straight to Mars.
Yeah.
This is almost a parody where you have these richest people in history fighting about going to moon or Mars. President Trump wants to go to Mars.
Yes, of which he says the moon is a part, which had some astronomers baffled on that one. But
he also asked a bunch of space scientists why we can't just go straight to Mars the other day. Let's just go straight. Let's just, the moon's a bad neighborhood. It's a bad neighborhood. It's one of those S-hole planetary bodies. We should just go straight to Mars. I mean, skip the moon.
Technically, you could, but we don't know enough about it, and you're probably going to lose people.
Jeff Bezos says, my buddy Jeff, he says, focusing on reaching Mars before first establishing a presence on the moon is an illusion.
It's not as smart as, going to the moon first, getting something in orbit around the moon, and then using that to get to Mars. It makes a lot of logical sense.
It's hard not to think that these guys have some economic incentive in all of this. Like,
it's the next big.
I want to go to the moon because there's water on the poles, and we could. There's reasons. I feel like there's.
But the amount of natural resources floating within easy reach of the Earth, we're starving in the midst of plenty here. We could
asteroid mining.
Well, when Planetary Resources launched their pie in the sky idea to do asteroid mining, I looked in some of the NASA cases on this. There are, strip mining one large asteroid would give you as much platinum as has been mined in the whole of Earth's history.
Yes.
And it would totally disrupt the market, but if you're shifting onto that kind of scale of economics, then there's a lot to be said for it. And I think Musk and Bezos, they want to be in there at the start. They want to be providing the engines to get you there, and eventually they want to be setting up the resource scavenging.
Plus, this Beatmaster says there's no sales tax on the moon, so you just put all the warehouses on the moon.
True.
Yeah. Well, there's a lovely Arthur C. Clarke story.
Wayfair v. South Dakota doesn't have jurisdiction on the moon.
There you go.
There's a lovely Arthur C. Clarke story from the late 1950s where he's talking about a combined American, British, and Soviet trip to the moon, and the British astronauts decide to stay on there for an extra 4 months so they can avoid paying tax for the year on the salary.
Top sellers on Prime Day: Echo Dot, Fire TV Stick.
Really?
Yeah, the top-selling devices. What a surprise, Amazon.
Yeah.
What a surprise. I bought something, but I waited until Amazon got me because I skipped Prime Day, but then I got an email saying, oh, we got a special on these little
that's how they suck you in.
Type-C USB connectors with little keychains on them, so I can't lose them. It's an adapter for Type-C to USB-A.
Oh, okay.
I know that's the thing that Amazon has you pegged for.
They know what I want. Damn them. Chocolate rain, some stay dry while others feel the pain. Remember that?
That one's got to stay forever.
I don't, actually.
Okay. Members purchased millions of Alexa-enabled devices, received tens of millions of dollars in savings by shopping from Whole Foods. Wait a minute. Prime Day, I could have used my Whole Foods discount? $2 billion of products from third parties on Amazon?
Also, hang on. Are they catching Whole Foods revenue in this as well, then?
I don't know what. I guess they had Prime Day at Whole Foods, too.
Yeah, I guess so.
In the U.S., Prime members bought more than, get ready, 100,000 lunchboxes, 100,000 laptops, 200,000 TVs, 300,000 headphones. This is a sad, sad commentary on American mercantilism. 350,000 luxury beauty products, 400,000 pet products, 650,000 household cleaning supplies, and more than 1 million toys. They also bought more than 200,000 LifeStraw personal water filters.
Oh, for goodness sake. The water here... Okay, I'm not going to go on a rant. I'm just calm down. Consumerism is good. Everything is fine.
And our sponsor, 150,000 Crest 3D white strips. That's a sponsor of ours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take credit for that. I'm going to take credit. They say, right? You all saw it on our shows, and then you went out and you bought it on Amazon during Prime Day. Thank you. They saved tens of millions of dollars by shopping at Whole Foods. Other top sellers, the Instant Pot. Who doesn't have an Instapot? And weirdly, 23andMe health and ancestry kits.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, good grief.
That proves that nobody's paying any attention to privacy at all.
No, because didn't they just sell their entire database to Bayer or something?
Yeah, they didn't sell the whole thing.
No,
but
they have a whole partnership with GlaxoSmithKline.
Oh, GlaxoSmithKline.
Yeah.
Oh, that other ethical...
That's not a bad thing
Yeah.
because as somebody whose genotype is stored at 23andMe, they've got my spit. I don't mind that being helpful in the development of...
on the nerds.
No, they actually, that's how they collect it. I don't mind that they share that with big pharma to help make better drugs.
Well, if that's what... Yeah, I mean...
Isn't that good? Isn't that a social good?
Well, I don't see how they actually use it to make better drugs because the test itself is fairly unreliable and it's anonymized data. So I'm curious as to
Well, then
how
what do
far
they want it for? They must want it for something. You know why? Because they collect with... So you send them your genotype, and then 23andMe at least, every time I go there, there's questions. And you can participate in studies.
Ah, okay.
So they're gathering
sense.
a phenotype to go with the genotype, and they do have the genetic information. I mean,
You know they're doing a similar thing now for pets? You can work out what proportion your dog is of various different breeds. It's just... who would have thought this sort of thing would become so popular, but...
that's kind of interesting. I would do that. Millions of smart home devices, including the iRobot Roomba 690 robot vacuum, the MyQ smart garage door opener, and the Amazon smart plug. It doubled the sales of its video doorbell Ring, another sponsor. Our sponsors did quite well. And Blink doubled the number of Fire TV Edition TVs it sold. 6 times the number of Eero devices, another sponsor. So I think I'm going to take credit for all of this. It's all me. It's all our advertising. Let's see. How do we feel about Facebook's Libra coin? Facebook was also on Capitol Hill testifying. David Marcus, he said that there's going to be better rules around it than banks for law enforcement.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure Facebook, who's proven itself so utterly trustworthy with our data, can be trusted not to abuse this. So, yeah, I'll be steering clear of it.
This is another one where it seems like a power grab from Facebook. They'd love...
Well, they've put it on hold now. They were preempting...
They did put it on hold.
Yeah, because Munchin put out a statement saying basically that he believes this is... will be used to fund terrorism, the rest of it.
Well, one of the advantages of cryptocurrencies is that they are anonymous, right? They're good for money laundering.
But but then Facebook came out the next day and obviously we'll put this on hold until the regulatory framework's done. I don't know what you folks think, but I'm steering clear of this. It's I
feel like, Seth, you're all in on cryptocurrency. Do you have a big investment in cryptocurrency?
No, actually, I'm pretty anti.
Oh.
It just feels like it's all going to come crashing down at some point because there's 300 different types of cryptos. Obviously, Bitcoin's the first and biggest, but there's a lot of different types, and very few are tied to real world value. It would be nice to have a currency that wasn't based on any nation state, but in particular, Facebook's seems particularly troubling because the company behind it has been so lackadaisical about rogue actors, not just foreign actors, but not necessarily folks with the best intentions, using their platform for bad things, electioneering, that kind of stuff. So, obviously Facebook, if a profit's in the crosshairs, isn't going to stand in the way of money laundering or terrorism or anything like that. And we know that's how it's going to go down. And, on the other hand, Facebook is a multinational corporation. They can kind of start this little small, the money thing as a small thing with, in other countries. And all of a sudden it's a global currency. So I think it's a bad thing, but inevitable.
The one thing I like about Facebook, and by the way, the whole idea behind the Libra coin is that it is a consortium of, I think, as many as 100 other companies. It's run out of Switzerland. It's not just Facebook. That may be a smokescreen to keep Facebook's involvement kind of a little bit under the covers. I do, though. I can't say I hate the idea of undermining banks. Like the whole thing that happens with blockchain and crypto is that you don't need a centralized source of truth for who has what money, right? In Bitcoin, there's no central bank. It's completely decentralized. Everybody has the ledger, and you have a source of truth for who owns what. There have been some issues. Libra might solve some of those issues. And I can't think of a better group of people to be disintermediated than the global banking system. Am I wrong? I mean, I don't want to destabilize our economic future.
Yeah, I mean, I think undercutting banks is never a terrible thing in the large scheme of things.
They seem rapacious,
Yeah, it's not something that we all should be glorifying and defending with our last word. But I also think that, I don't know, in this case, putting our trust in Facebook and a large group of cryptocurrency advocates at this stage probably isn't the wisest total alternative. And
that's the real problem, isn't it? The Facebook's association with this. But it's the only reason it stands out, because there's many more than 100 different cryptocurrencies out there. And I don't know if Libra coin is in any respect better than any of the other ones. I don't know which is best, which is...
I'm looking forward to DEF CON this year, where they're going to be doing an in-depth look at what we know about it and what we don't. And I think that's good. That's going to be quite interesting.
I have to say, I did feel like a failure in life because CNBC had a big profile today on the 26-year-old woman behind this, Morgan Beller. She is one of 3 people, all Facebook employees, listed as co-creator of Libra, along with Vice Presidents David Marcus and Kevin Weil. Since they're vice presidents, I'm thinking she did all the work. This was her doing. She's 26.
26 and a VP at Facebook.
She's not a VP. But she apparently, she's according to CNBC, a rather new employee in Facebook's corporate development unit. But she, a couple of years ago, got very interested in the whole idea of cryptocurrency and blockchain, and had been really pushing it at Facebook. Beller is known in the blockchain community as the original driving force behind Facebook's push into cryptocurrency. She's on LinkedIn listed as head of strategy for Calibra, which is the consortium, as well as co-creator of Libra coin. So I think that's kind of interesting. And what's driving her, apparently, at least according to CNBC, is this whole notion of getting rid of the existing financial system, which really doesn't work for a lot of people in the world, and making a kind of more democratic money system.
Well, this was always originally the promise of cryptocurrency, is that it would get it out of the system, but so much of the online currencies seem to just being held as investment tools. There's not much evidence that people are actually using them to buy anything other than illegal stuff and very low levels of of others. Is it Sarah Young who said that she'd taken the first sushi restaurant after allowed you to pay by Bitcoin, and she took some people out and paid with Bitcoin.
That's so dangerous.
And then 5 years later, she's just like, yeah, that dinner cost me about $55,000.
Yes, there's the guy who bought the Bitcoin pizza, like $2 or $3 million now of Bitcoin. By the way, there's a couple of significant problems with Bitcoin that presumably Libra coin and others would solve. One is the complete volatility of it. I mean, it goes up and down. It was as high as 20,000. For a while, it was back at 7,000. I think it just went down after this Libra coin kind of thing and went down again. The other problem is the blockchain itself. The Bitcoin wallet is more than 100 gigabytes. It's massive. Yeah. And every single person who uses Bitcoin, if they're using their own local wallet, has to store that because that's a distributed ledger. And then I guess that really gives rise to the third problem, which is that transactions can take ridiculously long on Bitcoin because, just it's kind of the nature of the way that the proofs are done. The Bitcoin miners, the amount of power it requires. Oh, that's another problem. I came up with 4 problems. It's using more energy than some countries. The Bitcoin miners.
Yeah. But also, I mean, as you said, from the financial institutes, initially they were just like, Bitcoin is fantastic, we can track everything. It's like, yeah, but the compute load to do that is such that it's going to slow down all your planning systems. So
I think there will be better. The Bitcoin ledgers. I'm sorry, it's not 100 gigabytes. How big is the blockchain today? Maybe it's only 20 gigabytes. It's going up. No, I'm sorry. 200. It looks like 230 gigabytes. Yikes.
That's so many gigabytes.
That's so many. It's all the gigabytes. Somebody's saying you can zip it, but I don't know.
But still,
that's a lot of data. It has to be distributed.
Yeah, so Bitcoin's up to 10,500 now.
It is?
Yeah, it's had a bit of a rally of late.
Maybe because Libra is not the next.
Yeah, I think when Libra was announced that it wasn't going to be coming out quite as quickly as then the market rallied slightly, but it's still.
I gotta figure out what my password is to my wallet. I got 7 Bitcoins. At one point, it was worth $140,000. Now you're saying it's worth $70,000.
Yeah.
I can't remember the password.
There was a British IT administrator who had. This was back when it really peaked. He had like sort of $6 million worth of Bitcoin on an old hard drive.
Yeah.
And
that he threw out?
Yeah, he threw out. So he was trying to organize a Kickstarter campaign.
To go through the dump.
To go through the dump hand by hand to find this drive and hope that it worked again. But sadly, no, couldn't find enough takers on that one.
So Steve Gibson.
I don't know. Seems worth it for that amount of money.
I would do it.
I'd search through the dump.
If the drive works, though, after
Steve
having been
Gibson, when we did a piece on security now, when Bitcoin first came out, he talked about the process, how blockchain works, how Bitcoin works, the Satoshi paper and everything. And he thought, well, I'll just set up a miner. He set up a miner. The next day, 50 Bitcoin come out. This was in the early days.
Yeah.
He's a big deal. It's Bitcoin. He put it on a hard drive. It was at one point worth $1 million. Turns out he wouldn't admit this. He finally admitted to me. He had erased the hard drive. He didn't back up his wallet. Back up, kids. Back up your wallet.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all I can say. He'd erased the hard. He erased $1 million worth of Bitcoin just by erasing it.
As you do.
As one does. Did you see? This was a good one from Brian Krebs. Speaking of security. Oh wow! QuickBooks cloud hosting firm in sync hit in ransomware attack. I did this. This just broke. Okay, that's not the one.
Just on this today.
That's one I had. Actually, this was on Friday. Brian has become the king of ransomware, but he published. Now this has some bad words in it, but this is an ad for a Russian credit card fraud shop. They made an ad. All right, I'm just gonna play the ad and see if it makes you wanna notice. By the way, an American flag, hamburgers, and a GOP elephant on this guy's bib.
It takes a certain kind of man with a certain reputation to alleviate the cash from a
There's a goat. There's a fez.
I'm confused.
There's a guy going to the club. They're grinding people up in a meat grinder. That's the president, Donald Trump. I don't know what this is. He's making burgers out of it. And it looks like Homer Simpson, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton.
Okay.
It's probably like a Russian Robbie Williams song, or actually no, it's based on The video, it's a little disturbing. I apologize. But the fact that they have ads for credit card fraud shops was the thing that I found fascinating. We'll stop it before we get to the actual ad. I got something that'll take the bad taste out of our mouth. We made a little video this week of all the fun things that we did on Twit. Why don't we watch that instead, kids? Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Yes. Press the button. Is it ready? Do it.
How many people going into meat grinders does it feature?
Oh, none. Zero. Zip. That was disgusting, wasn't it? I apologize for that.
All that.
I blame you, Brian Krebs. Do we have it? All right. Let's roll the tape.
Previously on Twit.
This is what FaceApp, which is a viral app. That's exactly what you're going to look like.
That's what I think you're going to look like, Jeff.
Thanks a lot.
Ancient Mariner.
Mac Break Weekly.
Originally came from Digitimes. Apple is killing its AR glasses.
I am prejudiced to believe the report that Apple is backing away from immediate plans.
Yeah, I don't think anybody will ever be. Hold on a second. I just got a message.
Windows Weekly.
The show title today is The Cat's Away.
Like he can almost pet him. There you go. Scratch his back. It's nice.
This Week in Google.
My pick of the week I already told you about, which is Start Page, which gives you Google results without giving Google any information. And it's easy to install if you're using Firefox.
Security Now.
Quote, their headline was malware attack on county computers, LaPorte County website, government email servers out of operation. Someone by the name of Dr.
Doing this to irk me, aren't you?
No.
Just wait till Gibson Township goes down. I'm just telling you.
Twit, the happiest place on earth.
Our show today brought to you by Rocket Mortgage. From Quicken Loans, finding the right house isn't easy, but finding the right mortgage, that's a lot easier thanks to Quicken Loans and Rocket Mortgage. Rocket Mortgage is doing more to help you understand the home buying process so you can get exactly what you need. Because it's not just a mortgage, it's your mortgage. Quicken Loans and Rocket Mortgage has a team of mortgage experts obsessed with finding a better way, which means their number one goal is to make the home buying process smoother for you. Award-winning client service and support every step of the way. Industry-leading online lending technology. They've helped millions of Americans achieve their dream of home ownership. And, you know, the proof is in the pudding, or should I say in the J.D. Power Award. J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in customer satisfaction for mortgage origination 9 years in a row, and highest in mortgage servicing 5 years in a row. If you want more information, go to jdpower.com. When you work with Rocket Mortgage, you get more than just a loan, because Rocket Mortgage is a lot more than just a lender. Visit rocketmortgage.com/twit2 and take the first step toward the home of your dreams. Get started online today at rocketmortgage.com/twit2. They're an equal housing lender, of course, licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030. Rocket Mortgage from Quicken Loans. Push button. Get mortgage. I do want to mention Apollo 11 because, of course, this is the week, 50th anniversary of Apollo 11. And a lot of times we talk about the space program, and inevitably, and I don't know if people say this lately, but as long as I've been around, they've said, oh, yeah, the space program, what do we get? We got Tang, we got Velcro, we got pens that could write upside down. And I never had
I'm biting my tongue on this one.
Why?
Well, because Velcro existed before the space program, because the pen thing was developed privately for NASA rather than...
And by the way, Russian cosmonauts used pencils. Oh, it works in space.
That's also an urban myth, because
they didn't use pencils?
No, the graphite from the pencil would actually have shorted out electronics.
Oh.
So they started using pencils, and they found
it didn't work problems. So good. Bad idea, pencil. So what did they do?
Well, laser eye surgery, for example, that was developed from software for getting ships to dock or berth with other ships. A whole host of new materials and ceramics. The kind of alloys needed to deal with these kind of things are now in produce everywhere, and of course, computers. You know,
really important.
Really
the first
important.
Use of semiconductors, microelectronics, really it was the first embedded processor ever in the Apollo guidance computer that landed the men on the moon.
You see, Arthur C. Clarke always said it was one of the great disappointments was the invention of microelectronics, because he'd envisaged if you were going to put satellites around space, you'd have to have people there constantly replacing the valves on them.
We call them tubes here.
Well, yes, but but I mean, no, we got a lot out of this.
Oh yeah,
the fact that we've dropped the ball ever since is
great piece. Wall Street Journal did a really great job, and I want to give credit to the Wall Street Journal's. Let me close the ad here so I can see his name. The Wall Street Journal science reporter Robert Lee Hotz, who did this video and narrated, I'm guessing with his son, Alexander Hotz.
Houston, you're looking good for separation. You're a go for separation. Columbia, over.
On July 20th,
a guy named Don Iles,
just moments after the Apollo 11
who had never programmed a computer before, but was hired by MIT to help write the code that controlled Apollo's lunar module's descent to the moon. He was just a young guy, straight out of college, and I guess at that time, where did you go to find computer programmers? Nowhere. Mm-hmm. So he was a smart guy. He applied to the instrumentation laboratory at MIT, 23-year-old math major, and they said, "Well, math, okay, come on in." And he ended up with a team writing the software for the first, IC-based interactive computer in space.
If you look at the actual hardware, it's just a masterpiece of move this. I mean, it makes the Altair in 1976 look, so far advanced. But
and they did look at the source code and they found some fun whimsy in it. Some of the routine names, for instance, the ignition sequence was named "Burn Baby Burn." And when the computer wanted to reposition the landing radar antenna, the code said, I presume this is a comment, "Astronaut, please crank the silly thing around." And then it performed a calculation to determine if the astronaut had moved it correctly, called "See if he's lying." When the antenna was aimed and the landing could proceed, the code said, "Off to see the wizard."
Okay.
Yeah.
Easter eggs have still always been a thing then.
I also want to give credit to a woman named Margaret Hamilton.
Yes.
She's still alive. She's in her 80s.
She got awarded the Presidential Medal of Honor by Obama.
Yep. And you've probably seen the picture of her with the source code printed out on
famous picture
on reams of paper as tall as she was. She's now I don't know if you remember, but if you listen to the landing, you'll hear at one point as the lunar module is trying to come down, Neil Armstrong say, "We have a 1202 error." There's the picture of her with the reams, the huge printout of all the code.
Oh my goodness.
What's a 1202 error? Armstrong asks. And nobody knew what the 1202 error is. She knew. She was sitting along with other programmers and engineers because she wrote the alarm codes, including the 1202 code. She says this is also in the Wall Street Journal, they were never supposed to happen, alarms. I was in a state of shock. I mean, they're literally minutes from landing on the moon. They are in the lunar module. How could this be happening just before the landing? I'm thinking, oh my God, this is not real. But to their credit, they had written the 1202 in. It was a signal that the computer had been overloaded. But, and this is such a great story, it had been designed, if its RAM was full, to start dumping unimportant tasks in order to keep flying safely. And that's what 1202 was. And 1202 kept happening. And Armstrong said, "What is going on?" And eventually, and you can hear this on the recordings, the flight director, Gene Kranz, says to him, "It's okay, you're go." Because they said, "Oh no, you're not supposed to see this error. There was something, a switch had been flipped wrong at some point, and data was being dumped into the computer, but the computer was handling it properly. That 1202 error reset the computer. Mm-hmm. They continued to land. They landed safely. And I think a lot of credit goes to Margaret Hamilton and the team and many, many, many people at MIT and NASA who had written this code. So there is absolutely a story to be told around this Apollo 11 landing. And if you use a computer today with microprocessors,
you owe them all a debt.
Yeah. you can thank Margaret Hamilton, and what an amazing team, including the young Don Iles.
Margaret Hamilton gave a lovely interview where she said she wouldn't have been able to do this if her husband hadn't been quite so enlightened about women's abilities and that sort of thing, which is, I presume, is one of the reasons she married him. But it was, women used to be the bulk of coders in some areas, and it was only in the 70s.
That's what a computer meant. In the early days, a computer wasn't a machine; it was a human, a woman in most cases.
Yeah. So every time you get the James Danmores of this world, it's like, well, women aren't suited towards coding. It's just like they've been doing it for the last 70 years.
The 1202 was one of 29 alarms that could be displayed during the landing. Give us a reading on the 1202 program alarm, Armstrong radioed. They were 30,000 feet and above the moon and descending. 27 seconds ticked off with no answer. As everybody scrambled to figure out what the hell. Finally, Krantz said, "We're go on that alarm." And his team said, "We're go." And he said, "Go." And they landed 17 seconds away from aborting what was, I think, in many ways, the most amazing thing humans have ever done. And thanks to Margaret Hamilton, here's a picture of some of the other teams. Can you imagine
you get all the way there and you abort, and you never would have lived that down in the astronaut bars afterwards? It's just like,
we had to abort. No, we're landing. We're there, man. By the way, the final line of code, as billows of lunar dust settled around the lander 50 years ago, its onboard computer ticked through the instructions of its P-68 lunar landing confirmation routine. Embedded in the final lines, writes Hotz, where no outsider was ever likely to see it, the software said, "Astronaut, now look where you ended up." On the moon. So that is a great, I really still get chills just thinking about it. Seth, you're not old enough to remember that.
Nope.
Ian, you're not either.
I apparently did watch it. You
were like 2.
I was about 2 weeks old at the time.
I was 12. I remember it very, very well, and I think it probably influenced me considerably.
Apparently, apparently the local pub was showing it, so the family all decamped down there, and they allowed small screaming children in.
I want to take one more break, and then I'm going to ask you, Paris, about nope, not this one. About this New York Times article, which scared the hell out of me. Don't scoff at influencers. They're taking over the world. The next president of the United States will have been a social media influencer. Actually, I think the current president of the United States is a social media influencer. Come to think of it, we're already in that era. We're already in that era. But before that, I want to order some food. Can we get DoorDash on the line? I'm starving. Thank goodness DoorDash has connected us to our favorite restaurants. I love DoorDash, our sponsor for this portion of the Twitch show. How many times, it happens to me all the time, you go home, you're not in the mood to cook, you go fire up your phone, DoorDash makes ordering easy. They connect you with all the restaurants in town. McDonald's is there, Chipotle, Wendy's, Chick-fil-A, the Cheesecake Factory. DoorDash connects you with door-to-door delivery in over 3,300 cities in all 50 states and Canada. Don't worry about dinner. Let dinner come to you with DoorDash. And I have to tell you, I love DoorDash for another reason. I've been using DoorDash for more than a year. My mom is 86, and a couple of years ago, my whole life, she cooked me the best meals, right? Your mother's cooking is the best cooking.
You've never tasted my mother's liver, I take it. Yes.
My mother's cooking is the best cooking. She cooked Italian. Because my dad was Italian, she had to cook Italian. So we had ravioli, she made her own pasta, she made her own French bread. I grew up on that. But when she got to a certain age, a couple of years ago, she said, I can't cook anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. So I said, Mom, I had given her an iPhone. I said, put DoorDash on your phone. I put my credit card number in the DoorDash. And I said, if you want something to eat, use this. It's on me. And even though she's all the way in Rhode Island, I get to give her a meal, and it's a great way to pay Mom back.
Nice one.
Isn't that nice? In fact, it works so well, Lisa does it with her parents now, too. So I'm just a little something you can do with your folks. DoorDash is fantastic. Of course, we use it all the time, and you can have anything you want delivered right to your door by those great Dashers. Right now, you'll get $5 off your first DoorDash order of $15 or more if you download the DoorDash app, put it on your phone, and use the promo code TWIT. I'm promising you, you will love it. Slices on your sofa? Hors d'oeuvres on your ottoman? This is DoorDash. DoorDash, promo code TWIT. Go to the App Store, download DoorDash, make an order. Your first order of $15 or more, you get $5 off, but you have to use the promo code TWIT for that order. And you can thank me later. And what a great gift, by the way. A great gift for anybody. Thank you, DoorDash, for your support. Thank you for helping me be a better son. Somebody's saying in the chat room that the BBC did a really good documentary called 13 Minutes to Landing.
Oh, yes, I've heard about this. I haven't actually seen it.
I haven't seen it. I'll have to watch.
No,
I am not sick of it yet. I thought this week, because it's been nonstop, everybody, but I could watch it over and over.
Hell, I even watched the 7 minutes of hell video this weekend with the Curiosity lander landing on Mars. NASA's done a brilliant video
amazing.
on that.
Well, yeah, pretty amazing. The Shift, New York Times, earlier this week. It actually, this is
going to be interesting.
On
curious what has to say.
VidCon. When the first TikTok star is elected president, writes Kevin Roos, who's great, I hope she'll save some room in her cabinet for older and more conventional bureaucrats, even if they don't have millions of followers, great hair, or amazing dance moves. I say when, not if, because I just spent 3 days at VidCon hanging out with a few thousand current and future internet celebrities, and it's becoming increasingly obvious to me that teenagers and 20-somethings who have mastered these platforms and who are often dismissed as shallow, preening narcissists by adults who don't know any better are going to dominate not just internet culture or the entertainment industry, but society as a whole. Paris, you live in this world. You agree?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the one thing is that probably by the time someone who's a TikTok star today is of age to be elected president, TikTok will have been replaced by whatever the next big.
Well, that's going to happen next month.
But yeah, that'll probably happen. Like there'll be 6 other apps.
Yeah.
So it won't be TikTok. But yeah, I mean, the influencer industry and world of culture that it creates is not just some small niche, and it's not relegated to, I don't know, one part of the world, be it like beauty or entertainment or even culture in generally. It is an all-encompassing way in which people interact with, consume, and create content.
Yeah, and
interact with each other.
I kind of blame myself because inevitably when we talk about influencers, we talk about Logan Paul, we talk about Kim Kardashian, we talk about kind of the outliers, the weirdos, the strange people, the dubious stunts, the extreme political commentary, things like that. But Roos points out, he said that many of these people are entrepreneurs. They've set up businesses, they're hiring staff, they're managing budget. They know, this is a business for a lot of these people, and the skills that's completely transferable to running the world in 20 or 30 years. Is AOC, does she count as maybe she counts a little bit as one of the first influencers in Congress? She certainly knows how to use Twitter. In fact, she gave classes in Twitter to her older colleagues, as I remember.
I still think
this is a definition I've been trying to figure out lately is, I mean, how do we define influencer? I think the thing that separates influencers from celebrities or other kind of mainstream figures kind of in the limelight in society is that influencers come up through and gain like notoriety through social, like posting on some sort of platform or creating content in some sort of space, originally kind of for a originally in a way that is not monetizable. They have this kind of air of authenticity. Meanwhile, like celebrities, they get notoriety and gain fame because they are participating in more of an established industry. And celebrities can be influencers, and influencers can be celebrities.
Well, they have for years, right? I mean,
yeah.
When you go to Japan, you see American movie stars who wouldn't deign to do TV ads or billboards in the U.S. all over the place. They're clearly influencers.
That's been a scam for a while now, though, hasn't it? Do your advertising in Japan and Korea because it'll never come back to you in the U.S.
Who's the guy who was on Men in Black with Will Smith? Older.
Oh,
Treat Williams, is that his name?
No.
Anyway, he's huge in Japan. You see him on vending machines everywhere. I took a picture of it because I couldn't believe it. He's riding an inner tube. His hair is swept back, and he's holding canned coffee. And it's an ad for canned coffee, and it's everywhere. When I was in Japan last year, it was Tommy Lee Jones. Thank you.
That's it.
He was everywhere. He's made anyway. Actually, Roos points this out. He says influencers have been running the world for years. Can you say President Ronald Reagan? We just haven't called them influencers. We've called them movie stars or talk radio hosts or Davos attendees. And honestly, I think you could probably point at the president as there he is, the boss. Tommy Lee Jones. It's Boss Coffee, which, by the way, the Boss Coffee logo, see if you can find the one where he's riding the inner tube. The Boss Coffee logo is like the guy with the pipe from the Slack religion.
Slack religion?
Joe Bob, what's his name?
J. Bob Dobbs.
J. Robert Dobbs. It looks just like J. Robert Dobbs. I'm sorry. This is Leo being an old influencer. President Trump is an influencer, right? He used Twitter to great effect. He used Facebook better than any candidate. You could really make I think, a very credible claim that he won not because of Russian influence or election fraud or the electoral college, but because he used Facebook incredibly effectively.
Did spend a lot of money targeting ads, and that spending hasn't actually stopped, which is what makes me think he's going to win next time around as well.
Spent a lot of money on that. A lot of money on that.
But yeah, no, I mean, the Trump team really understood it. The same with the Brexit crew in the UK. They really understood social media. I don't know. It's an interesting point about the interchangeability that you made, Paris, on celebrities and influencers. I don't know how you feel about this, but we were talking in the office. We occasionally will get some like, would you like to promote my product? And in return, I'll give you a shout out on my Instagram thing. Those just come across as complete pillocks. But at what point does someone become an influencer? Is it reaching a certain regular number of social media hits per post, or is it just the effect that they have?
I think that the term influencer, at least as we kind of have used it for the last year or the last couple of years, is intrinsically tied to capitalism and intrinsically tied to purchasing power, and specifically the ability to influence or sway the buying habits or actions or kind of beliefs and trends of others. Because, I mean, predominantly when we're talking about influencers, these are people who are making money and a career and a life out of being able to produce content in some way, and they generally finance that career by brand promotions or merch sales or any of these kind of entrepreneurial, I guess you could say, efforts in order to fund an unrelated probably channel or sort of content promotion, which is the one thing that does split influencers from political figures or people who have general influence or political power in a more tangential sense.
Interesting.
Bruce's piece ultimately says, don't dismiss influencers. That's just youth culture. That's the future. Is it youth culture? Is that where youth culture has gone? And maybe that's why people like me don't recognize it, because it used to be TV, or it used to be movies, or it used to be music.
It's all been media, I guess. I mean,
that's all media, but now it's Instagram, it's Snapchat,
Well, I think it's just speeding up the technology. Before that, you had to listen on the radio, or you had to go to the movies or whatever, and now it's instantly into your pocket, onto your hand, and the scale of it is so huge.
Yeah, it's so much. There are so many more like niches. You know, you can have an influencer who's like a trusted expert or I don't know, icon in any particular pocket of the world. If I want to find the best person to do, I don't know, strange woodworking clocks, there's probably tens of thousands of influencers.
That's a good point. That's one thing that's really changed, is there are many, many, many niches.
And that's why brands love them so much, I guess, from an advertising dollar perspective. It's much better for advertisers. I mean, celebrity endorsements are kind of meaningless in comparison to very specific influencer type advertising, because, if you're trying to target an audience, you can say, I'll have this celebrity promote my hair product.
Right.
some of their followers probably like this, but you can be like, oh, I can go to this one hair product specific Instagram account where everyone here is talking about hair. And
I know I'm
going to
reach the people who matter the
expert on
most.
that.
These are my customers. That's actually the same thing that people do with Facebook ads. A Facebook ad spend tends to be $100, $200, very small, but a great many of them because you're targeting very narrow slices.
Yeah.
And I would imagine it's the same thing with influencers. The problem with that, if you're Procter & Gamble and you want to spend $100 million on influencers, it's hard to spend it $100 at a time. Is there a burgeoning system for making this work? Is it agencies?
Yeah, there are a lot of like mini markets and agencies for middle tier influencers, not ones with like tens of millions. Generally, they on YouTube or Instagram, there are a bunch of different companies that exist where influencers can sign up. It kind of operates like a mini marketplace. They sign up, put their interests, things that they're interested in, and then brands also will put their interests as well as put out campaign offers, and the agency kind of acts, as a broker between the two, and then they form a campaign from that, which in some cases can happen on more of an automated scale if you want to do it more simply, and in other cases can be more can produce a more bespoke form of advertising.
So tech facilitates this too.
Yeah, the one difference though, as far as influencer marketing versus something like Facebook, is that most people don't. When you see what I guess would be an ad or a sponsored product through an influencer, most people don't think of it as an advertisement in the same way that they would. If you see a Facebook ad, you're going to be like, oh, this is an ad. It's meaningless. I'm not going to look at it very purposefully if you notice it at all. But when it's your favorite influencer talking about how much you love this product, it's different.
To me, that's a big problem with banner ads, is that I do the same thing. I intentionally ignore them. Like I avert my, I shouldn't admit this, but I avert my eyes as I'm looking down the page. Don't tell Seth this, but as I'm going down the page, I avert my eyes. But for some reason, Instagram ads work against me. It's, by the way, why I stopped using Instagram, because every 9th post is not a post. It's an ad, but it's the same attention that you're giving to each post, and they win every time. And I've spent so much stuff on Instagram crap I don't want all the time. It works so well.
Yeah, I mean, coming from a magazine which is supported in part by banner ads.
I apologize, you and Seth.
No, it's okay.
But I would worry if I were you. But I'm worried for podcasts because Facebook is so efficient.
As publications, if we tried to put as much advertising on our site as Facebook puts on its, we wouldn't get any readers. Because if you look at the actual screen acreage of Facebook that isn't an advert, it's a very small proportion.
Have you listened to American AM radio lately?
No. Last time I did
19 minutes an hour.
What, of adverts?
1/3,
oh my God.
1/3 of all the time is adverts.
But it's the same with American football. I mean, I'm sorry. An American football game goes on for 4 hours, and there's about
That's why your football is so good, because you can't stop. They can't run an ad.
Nope.
They don't stop playing, for crying out loud. If soccer ever wants to become a success, you're going to have to figure out a way to do that. Every minute or two, you got to stop.
Actually, we kind of prefer it that way, even if America beats us in the women's final.
Football was designed for advertising.
Oh, yeah, but I mean,
there's 11 minutes of action in a standard American football game. 11 minutes in a 3-hour game.
Yeah, I can quite believe it. But what they've done with soccer is, or football as the rest of the world knows it, because you kick the ball with your foot, not kicky, runny, shouting.
I know, it's hand-egg. I know.
They've got billboards along the side of the pitch. Now, those can be electronically altered for the market that's watching it.
Well, see, that's good.
So that's the way they do it.
Okay. Who here wants to have their brain stitched by a sewing machine? Karsten's volunteering. Karsten watched
His hand twitched.
the Neuralink video.
We read the paper. That was interesting reading.
Elon Musk's company. Elon, of course, reads a lot of science fiction, takes a lot of drugs. So you combine the two, and you're going to start a company that's designed to connect. Allegedly. No, he's done both in public. So
that's true,
it's
I
not
guess.
even allegedly. On Rogan. He has created a company called Neuralink. He's invested $100 million of his own money, and they've raised considerably more, that will put a chip in your brain. A small processor sits on the surface of the skull. And then here's the machine. A robotic, basically sewing machine.
Yeah.
That inserts tiny threads smaller than the size of a hair.
Over 3,000 of them.
Into your brain. And
my head hurts just looking at that.
And the problem is, where do you how do they know where to put it? I think there's a...
Well, we spoke to, because they published a scientific paper on this, which was the authors were just Elon Musk and Neuralink. So we called up some of the people who were cited in the research, and they're saying there's not anything particularly new about this. It's just the scale that they're going into it.
Right.
And they're talking about putting 3,000, mapping out where the neurons that they want to tap into are, putting 3,000 filaments into your head, and running it all out through a USB-C cable.
USB-C?
I know. You know.
I hope we got something better than that by then.
Yeah. So you can do this.
What happens when USB-C becomes obsolete? Do you have to go
I'm
get it
sorry. I have
changed
a
out?
FireWire interface. I don't.
Someone would be happy to sell you a connector. Look at Apple's business model now. They'd be fine to sell you one for a couple of
You're
$100.
just going to have dongles coming out of your head?
Yeah.
But isn't that every science fiction novel? I mean, remember The Matrix? They plugged a big cable into the back of your head in The Matrix.
But imagine if that cable had to plug into 3 extra dongles. That movie would be ridiculous.
Oh, the dongle life extends even to the brain.
But yeah, they're saying they can power this from the electrical activity generated by the brain, which is still a very new area.
ATP. It's a very...
But it's just, these things are, yes, you've got to get them in exactly the right space. They're very fragile because they're so thin, and if they get much smaller, the conductive capacity of the wires starts to degrade because of electronic interference. So,
aren't they looking for volunteers next year, Karsten? Do you want to take some time off to do that?
Sure.
Okay.
It's like Hyperloop. It's a great idea in theory, but who's going to be the first one to do?
Speaking of robots, The Verge. Boston Dynamics robots are preparing to leave the lab. Oh boy, is the world ready? I think you've got a publicity problem here. Seth, are you going to buy Spot, the Boston Dynamic robot?
I don't think so. I don't know what I would do with it besides scare everybody.
It's terrifying.
But that is something.
Yeah.
Spot will be the next influencer sensation. I'm calling it now.
Here's a video of Spot. Well, I'll let you watch the video and figure out what Spot's up to. By the way, this sounds like the clone army coming for us. But this is actually a bunch of Spot robots. They're attached to a cable, a wire.
It's a Spot centipede.
It's a Spot
dog
centipede. It's like a dog sled. It is, actually, you're very close, because they're attached to a giant truck, which they are pulling along.
But hang on. Surely for the price of one of those robots, you could buy about 10 trucks. So.
Well, Spot Mini lasts 90 minutes of charge, maximum payload of 14 kilograms. It's about 30 pounds. That's half its own weight. It can pull a truck. And what did they say the price was? It wasn't too awful, I think. Let me see if I can find a price on the Verge article.
Because originally they tried. Oh yes, the article's got the kicking the Spot dog, which
that's always
does
fun.
look like the start of our new.
Remember that Boston Dynamics originally was doing this research for the military.
Well, yeah, but then the military tried these out and discovered they were pretty much useless in the current incarnation.
If I were a soldier and it came running towards me, I'd run the hell the other way. I'm not.
All you got to do is run away for about half an hour, though, and the battery runs out.
The battery runs out.
I mean, the Marines tried a petrol version of these as like a sort of robot mule.
Those were too noisy.
Yeah, exactly. It was so noisy you're going to get bombed to hell and back before you even get close to the enemy. Yeah. And even Spot's quite loud. I mean, I love what they're doing, but it's...
Well, no, it doesn't look like they have a price yet. But get ready, because it is this year that Spot will hit the market. Mini Spot. Seth, thank you for being here. Seth Weintraub, publisher at 9 to 5, 9 to 5 Mac, 9 to 5 Google. Are there other 9 to 5s? Am I got them all there?
There's the 9 to 5 Toys.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. That was the new one you launched. Yeah.
And Electric.
Are they 9 to 5 toys for grown-ups? or for kids?
It's not adult toys, but it is toys for people who are of all ages.
I got a new idea for you. 9to5toys.com. 9to5Mac, 9to5Google, and of course Electric, which I read religiously because I'm all in on the electric vehicles. It's great to have you. Thank you so much for being here, Seth. Stay cool. As
we'll try.
Should you, Paris Martineau, Wired staff writer. We love having you on, Paris. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Love being here.
Thanks for coming into work and sweating it out with Mr. Snowden.
I'm going to be free of all toxins by the end of this.
He says, Spot, run me a bath, Spot. I'm coming home. Call DoorDash. I'm ready. And Ian Thompson, news editor at theregister.co.uk. Always a pleasure to have you. Thank you for being here. You were in England for a few months for your mom's birthday?
Just for 2.5 weeks.
Oh, it seems like it was forever.
So
we missed you.
It was Scottish Islands, Orkney, France, Spain, and back home. So, yeah, 2.5 weeks, 6 flights. I needed a holiday when I got back to get over it.
Holy cow. Thank you for being here. We also thank the students from Varese, Italia, the code engineering students. Great to have you once again. Thanks, Derville, for bringing them along. We really appreciate it. Nice bunch of kids. Did you understand? Your English is better than mine, I think. You understood what this was all about. Yeah. All right. Would any of you like a giant robot dog? No. It's pazzo. It's crazy. No. We do. I love these guys. Thank you for being here. We do Twit every Sunday afternoon, around about 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern Time. That'd be 21:30 UTC. If you want to watch live or listen live, you can at twit.tv/live. You can also participate in the chat room if you're listening live, because they're doing the same thing at irc.twit.tv. On-demand versions of all of our shows are available at our website, twit.tv. Of course, you can also subscribe in your favorite podcast application. Sure, Spotify, but also Apple and Google and Pocket Casts, whatever you like. Just subscribe. That way you'll get it the minute it's available on Sunday night. I apologize. We screwed up last week, and the feed didn't go out until about 7 or 8 in the morning, and so a lot of people from the East Coast were angry at me. And I apologize. It was a computer error, but it will not happen again. So do subscribe. That way you'll have it for your Monday morning commute. Thanks for being here, everybody. We'll see you next time. Another Twit is in the can. Bye-bye.